The time is 5:30 p.m. We will now call this special public meeting of the Board of Trustees of Humble Independent School District to order. Moving to our first item of business, the Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask everyone to stand for our Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. I ask that you stand for a moment of silence. You may be seated. All right. All right. Seeing that no one has signed up to speak on the agenda items, we will proceed to our information items. Item 3A, Board Policy EFB. Any questions from the board regarding this item?
So if I may, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Binkley.
I believe this came up because I think there was potentially some need for additional discussion on the Library Council and the policy that the board passed last time. So you may remember the board passed a policy at the last meeting. It was EFB that included a lot of revisions, and part of that was the creation of this Library Council that is the school districts are allowed to create under SB 13. As part of that, the way it was written at the time was that the council would be made up of 100% of non-employee parents. Now, the law does allow the board to kind of expand beyond that if the board wishes to, but there are some things that before the board asks any questions, I'd like to walk through a couple of points just to give the highlight of that. So first, I want to remind you, the SLAC makes recommendations. Any final decisions regarding library books, whether to approve putting them in or approve taking them out, is made by the board. So as we talk through some of these things, I get louder and quieter. As we talk through some of these things, just remember this, the SLAC is not making the decision, they're making a recommendation. This ultimately is on your shoulders as the trustees. The majority of the council under the law must be non-employee parents. And so that means we have, the policy says a council of 14. That means 8 of the council members must be non-employee parents. The board can revise the policy to appoint others to the council. And that can be community members, employees, et cetera. And this question, I think, was brought up. The trustee who brought this up brought it up to discuss specifically opening up to add community members or be able to appoint community members to the council. Now, as the board discusses this, if you wish to add employees or others, you can open it up to that too. I don't believe administration is making that recommendation at this time to add employees, but I want to put it out there. I want to make sure you have that information as you're discussing this. And the board can create guardrails if you open it up. So the board may decide we want to open it up to community members, but limit it to those community members who reside in Humble ISD. As you're talking about that, some boards that have considered the Library Council have raised the question or been asked the question regarding whether individuals who do not have students in their district should influence what library materials are made available to students in that district. I bring it up now because at some point you're gonna get that question, you're gonna hear it. I wanted to make sure the board wasn't caught off guard with that. I do remind you though that first bullet, the council makes recommendations, not decisions. So there's some balance there. If the council is open to others, though, and this is the sticky part, the board needs to have a mechanism for ensuring the majority of members are non-employee parents. So, for example, because it's 8, if each trustee appointed a non-employee parent and a community member, we would not meet the requirement. We'd only have 7 non-employee parents, which is not a majority. We don't have any examples of a good mechanism for that yet. A lot of districts have shied away from creating this council. One method, of course, would be you send your appointees to Karen and I, and we tally them up. And if we don't have the majority, we let the board know through a BCC email and let each individual trustee decide if they want to appoint somebody else. The other option is the committee's not formed until the board considers all the appointees and approves the appointees. And that would allow the board to come together, have that conversation as part of a board meeting, and have a little bit more dialogue as to what the board wanted to do as a whole there. Of course, there are pros and cons to both, certainly checks and balances to both. That's kind of the primer I want to give. My hope is that after this meeting tonight, we'll have a better idea as the administration where the board wishes to go so that we can make the correct policy edits and bring it back to the board on October 21 to formally approve. And if we have that kind of information, then hopefully the trustees will be able to also start pulling together who they wish to appoint so we can get a lot of this done quickly and start moving forward with some book purchases and some other things.
Yes, Mr. Scarfo.
Thank you. You could have said my name. I had no problem. I had contacted Mr. Binkley the day after our meeting because as I read the statute, it said because I think the point was made that it had to be only parent representatives, but it's not how the statute reads. So I asked the question, I said, could you verify whether or not we could appoint non-parent community district residents and that was my caveat to that. I don't think we should have people living in another area. So if we kept it to community members who reside in the district, and maybe, so I think it's clear we can do that. And we had talked about, we were going to do 14, I think, a total, right? It was going to be 7 times 2. Maybe, I know all of you guys probably have too, but I've gotten people reach out to me. I've had people who have recommended people to me. Would it make sense, and Mr. Binkley, you tell me, to open up where we ask people if they want to apply, and we could ask community, the community to non-employees, but if they are interested, that they send an email to Mrs. Martin, and she can accumulate those, and we could look at all of those at some point, even if we need to come back, for an hour to have a special session, just so nobody feels they weren't considered, they didn't have the opportunity to participate. And I hope that in the end, it's balanced in terms of where people come down on the, I'll say, political spectrum, only because you wouldn't want anybody to feel that the board had any way ginned it up in terms of they got all people from this way of thinking versus that or whatever. Because right out of the gate, it'll be a failure because the community won't buy in because they say, oh, that's a bunch of nonsense because it was all just, a facade. So hopefully we as a group would say, no, we're going to have balance. We're going to strike balance here. I think that's important for the success of this committee. And so that was, I had asked that question and Mr. Binkley came back and you guys all heard him so that we can do that.
No, thank you, Mr. Scarfo. Mr. Grabowski, you good? Okay. I'll say I was thinking the same thing, so I'm glad you brought it up. I was trying to figure out the same challenge, just to create transparency. Not that there isn't, but just wanted to make sure that the community knew. Like, I'd rather over-communicate and be overly transparent on this one, so I appreciate you talking to Mr. Binkley. Yes, sir, Mr. Grabowski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you define counselor voting versus non-voting members of the?
The committee, is the way the board created it in the policy, does not have any non-voting members. They would all be voting members.
Yes, Mrs. Parker.
I just wanted to say that I've been struggling like internally, like with coming up with a fair process. And then, so I've been brainstorming of having like, some sort of application for people, but I think it might be good if there's some sort of uniformity between all 7 members in the process that we use to pick people.
And I will say, if the board comes together unanimously with that, we'll support it. We'll do what the board says. In reading the statute, it specifically identifies that each trustee gets to make an equal number of appointments. That doesn't mean we can't have a process to help trustees identify potential appointees. And I think currently we have a board that's pretty uniform in a lot of. I don't want to speak to y'all, but we have a board that's really getting along. Y'all have done a good job making board meetings boring again. But should that shift,
You're welcome.
you could have trustees that come in and, thank you, Madam Former President. You could have trustees that come in and don't like that process and want to change it. And they would have some ground, some foundation to be able to push back on it. So I'm not saying we don't do it, but I need to make sure y'all are aware of that. I don't want 2 years from now you to say, but Jeremy, you said we were good with this.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. You want to go first? No, okay.
Go, Mrs. Shaw.
I think it would be good on the uniformity part, just piggybacking what Chris said, is you could turn my. I told you I was going to make this entertaining every time. But anyway, you could set a criteria so we have that in place and establish that. And you can vote on that criteria because it might change every 2 years or every 3 years or whatever it is. But I think it's important to have that in the application so people are clearly, and they know if they're qualified to be on it or they're not qualified to be on it, right? And everybody can agree to that. Yeah.
Mr. Scarfo.
Yeah, Mr. Binkley, just to follow up, I thought the statute said that the voting members have to be parents. They couldn't be community members who were not parents. So
No,
I'm not saying I'm right on that, but.
I sound like a broken record. The statute is poorly written. But it speaks to two different, it does speak to voting members and non-voting members. Of the voting members, a majority have to be non-employee parents, which implies, suggests, whatever you want to call it, that the non-majority of voting members can be anyone else the board decides. Non-voting members fall within a specific classification or list of individuals who can be that. The policy was not written to have non-voting members, or at least the option that was brought forward. And so we can certainly open that up. It does get very confusing when you talk about voting and non-voting, and your voting members can come from kind of anywhere. Your non-voting have to come from these specific individual or lists of individuals. And so we didn't go that far yet. I think 14 voting members is going to be a good start. And if there is a need in the future for non-voting members, that's something that can always be revised. If the board says differently, we'll do as the board wishes. This is your policy. This is your process.
I'm sorry, I'm confused because regardless, again, if you can clarify for us, and not maybe tonight, but get back to us, the voting members, I thought they did have to be parents.
No, only a majority of them.
A majority of them, okay, so.
So you have 14 voting members, 8 of them have to be non-employee parents, the other six, sorry, math was not my strong point, can be community members who reside in the district.
Right, okay, that's fine.
They're all
That's
voting.
not what I heard you say the second time. Okay, I just want to make sure we're clear about that, so as long as.
That's what I said.
Okay, well, I didn't hear it right
Okay.
then. So out of the 14, 8 would have to be parents who can vote, because only parent members can vote. from-
No, all 14 vote.
Okay, all right, that's not how I understood then the statute worked, but if that's the case and you confirm that, then I'm going to defer to your judgment. I just want to, or your opinion, I should say. I just want to make sure we were clear about that. So, okay, that's fine.
All four. So again, all 14, but the majority must be parents of children in the district.
Yes.
Okay.
Who are not employees, but the whole
Who are
group
not
can
employees.
vote. We didn't write in any non-voting members into this.
Mrs. Parker.
Mr. President, Mr. Bickley, the one thing I don't like about the 14 number is 7-7. The SLAC could vote 7-7, if they wanted to, if they voted on stuff.
They could, and it would just be the same as if you had one trustee absent tonight and it was 6, and it could be 3 and 3. My guess is with 14 individuals, I'm hoping that first meeting, Dr. Lee and I have spoken, we hope we can get all 14 there. Beyond that, I am not optimistic that you will have all 14 people in the same room at the same time.
That's fair. That's right. That's right. Okay.
Everybody can vote. If 14 people can vote on an issue to bring as a recommendation. It's just that of that voting block, if you will, a majority do have to be parents in the district.
Yes.
Okay, I think we got it right. Okay. Hey, I'm slow. What can I tell you? Oh, yeah, this is a great job.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Silva.
I'll just go ahead and just throw, as the agenda item says that you'll take whatever we're discussing and potentially put it on a future agenda. Having heard the ideas, I am on board with the idea of having a uniform application. I don't know about y'all, I've gotten probably 45 people that have reached out in one way or another that have said, I want to do it. And it is, I don't know anything about some of them I do. But just because I'm not friends with them, I don't want to not seriously take into consideration their request. So I'd love to get that option on the table if Dr. Brown and Mr. Holmes are up for it.
I am. When do we have to put this in play, in motion?
So really, the sooner the better. I think my hope for this evening was to get this guidance, these ideas from the board, so that we can bring back a policy option on October 21st. If the board was going to come and name their own appointees, which ultimately you're still responsible for naming your own appointees, then I was going to ask that the trustees each try to have some names for that meeting so we can get this rolling. I know there are some library purchases that the district would like to make. In working with Dr. Lee, we've put those on hold because when they came up, we knew that this policy revision may be coming to the board, and to administration's credit, they didn't want to go buy a bunch of books right before the board potentially put a library council in place. So with that, but it's not the end of the world. Our libraries have books. We want to add more books, and we will add more books, but we need to get this right. We need to make sure we have this process down first. And so what I would recommend as far as the application piece is we can write it into policy if that's what I'm hearing the board wants. It can also be a process where administration puts it out there. We can put it on the board's website. We can ask for applications as those come in. We can share all of those with all the trustees, maybe a shared Google folder, something like that. And then the trustees can look through those, come in with names and ideas, review them, at the next meeting if you wish. You may have some ideas of your own people who have or have not applied. And then everybody can come in and feel like they're getting to appoint those individuals that they feel are appropriate for the council.
I'd love to also hear from Dr. Lee and Dr. Brown, because I know you'll be driving this committee. Anything on that? I know
I'm going to ask Dr. Lee to come
Thank
to
you,
the
Dr.
podium,
Lee.
which she's already doing. So
Thank you.
if it were my child, I would get yelled at for asking them to do what they were already doing.
Match whatever process you guys want us to put in place for the committee to be formed. Like Mr. Binkley said, I know the librarians are just eager to make some purchases, so the sooner we can get them formed and get them acclimated, we're happy to do that. I think 14 is a good number for us to manage. Any more or less than that probably is going to be difficult either way. So 14 is a good number, I think, for us to have a good consensus across the district of the people you choose.
Yes, Mr. Scarfo.
Mr. Holmes, not to belabor this, if we're going to have an application, first of all, what's going to be on the application? You know, who's going to design that? You don't want it to be too long. And secondly, Mr. President, I might suggest maybe that since we could get 100, 150, whoever, would it be worthwhile for having you appoint an ad hoc committee to vet the initial batch of, because I don't know. I mean, that's just a suggestion. Hopefully there will be, but maybe you would do that. You can appoint 3 people to do the first round of vetting and.
Agree. I agree. I think we'll get a plethora of community members that want to join, and we still also need to validate them. I know that's going to be an immense burden to the team as well, because, I mean, you got to validate, are they parents in the district? Do they have children in the district? So all those things have got to be validated, and that takes time.
So, Jeremy, does this application process, does it have to wait until the October 21st policy?
No, I believe we could go ahead and put it in place now.
And advertise it and get it out and then, okay, because I was just, okay.
So, yes,
I was
Mr.
just going to
Scarfo,
say,
yes.
wouldn't it make sense, though, I mean, not to kill you guys, like, I don't think if we try to target the November board meeting as the date or the meeting we would finally make a decision. I know it's holding you up, but I'd sure hate to rush through something and just, it puts such a burden on you guys to have to, you're talking about 3 weeks.
It
That's
does.
not
I would just
enough.
like to point out one other factor that is in the Senate Bill 13 is since you have decided to have a library council, they hear all library challenges. We have one, and I can't do anything with it without a council in place. So we are going to be out of timeline no matter what because of that, and I've already explained that to this parent, but the longer we delay that, the longer we are delaying that process as well. So I'm just adding that into the consideration of where we're at right now.
Well, I think the November timeline, if that's what we're going to go with, that's okay, but I just wanted to see if we could get the application out there going so people can start applying. And
I think we can get the application developed over the next few days with all our collaboration, kind of envisioning putting it up on the board site as maybe a Google form. So all of that then flows into a spreadsheet, and we're able to also help the committee by being able to sort and filter that and just.
So I think, go ahead, Dr. Brown. So I believe there's consensus here to do the application process, and so we're leaving it to the administration to create that criteria. I don't believe we need to vote on anything, right? Because we're not asking to change the policy yet. But you guys, we can go ahead and move forward on that, right?
Yeah, oh, sorry, you were asking them, not me.
Yeah, we've got the October board meeting, which is October 9th, or no, October
21st.
sorry,
Third Tuesday.
21st,
Yeah.
that's right, we moved it. So you could, I mean, well, you can't approve anything before that. I was going to say you could approve the
They can-
application.
I think
we
what we
need to
could
wait
do
till
though,
November. I agree with Mr. Scarfo. We just don't have enough time.
if we create the application, I'll push it out. I'll poll the trustees individually, so there's no walking quorum. If any trustee has anything they want to add to the application, we can do that. If it gets unreasonably long, we'll hold. Mr. President, if you appoint an ad hoc committee, we can also utilize that ad hoc committee if we run into any obstacles with creating the application. So we can get it out there. We can start to get that. I think if you're going to go the application route, giving people time to go in, fill it out. It won't be 30 pages long, probably a handful of questions. And then in October, we'll bring policy revisions for the board to look at and hopefully approve. If the board wants additional revisions made, then we can bring that back in November, also with the idea that by November, we would be approving a council.
Okay. I'm good with that. Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Grabowski.
Dr. Lee and Counselor, is it possible that with the challenge that's out there, just to leave it on hold? Because whether the book in or out or whatever, if we need a council, it just has to stay that way until the November board meeting.
I mean, that is what I've recommended to the parent right now. I will say Senate Bill 13 does give very explicit timelines that we are going to violate either way on this because I can't do anything without a council in place. But that's a decision for you all.
I do think, as we have seen these statutes from the 89th regular session roll out with very, very quick implementations, we've seen a lot from even TEA, where TEA has certain things that are required of them, and they're saying districts, it'll be 2026 before we get to that. Yeah, that statute took effect September 1, so I think are we going to be out of compliance potentially with the statute on that one complaint? Maybe, but there's got to be some rollout time and implementation time for this. And I think the risk of liability is low. We have, is my understanding, removed that book from the library pending the challenge, as we're required to do. So we're not ignoring it. We are, and we will go through and handle that as the time is appropriate, but we don't want to circumvent the board's wishes of having the council review this.
100%. 100%, man, we just got to wait. And I'm sure you'll share with that parent.
Well,
I mean, we're trying to put things in place.
They've been very reasonable so far.
Okay, okay. All right. Okay. Yes, Mr. Silva.
Real quick question, just for my own understanding, with the council not being in place, the librarians cannot place that order. The board cannot approve.
Correct.
that.
We are holding that order. But again, our libraries have books.
Okay.
They have books. We want to get more books, but they're not empty. They're not barren. Also, just if I may, I appreciate Trustee Grabowski and Trustee Scarfo for your insight into this, some of your guidance on creating this policy. I've had conversations with both of you on this. Since you've told me it's okay to call you out on it, I will. But you've both been pivotal in creating this policy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. No further questions? All
Just
right.
float one more idea.
Yes, sir.
I know Mrs. Scarvo suggested an ad hoc committee. Might this be similar to the Education Foundation? And you have the most experience on this, Mrs. Scarfo. Maybe we have a liaison so that they only have to deal with one of us, and that person comes back to talk to all of us?
I
Because
think
we're in
that-
a time rush.
We're in a time rush, and we
just
all
throw it
are
out an
already on committees, and I agree. Maybe a liaison. Dr. Brown, Dr. Lee, maybe you can think of someone that could be a liaison for us to field a lot of this and bring us the intel information. I think that's a great idea. I do.
My only,
I vote Mike Grabowski could be our liaison, since he's put a lot of time into this policy.
I'm okay with it.
Mr. President, my
Yes,
my
Mr.
only
Scarfo.
suggestion of the ad hoc was about vetting the applications, because the liaison can't do that by he or she herself anyway, so
Yeah.
I think we still need to have that.
Yeah.
And maybe one of the people on that ad hoc committee could be that liaison, I think that's fine. But you're still going to need
We have
people
to
to
have a committee.
vet through the
Yeah.
applications, so,
Agree.
good.
Agree. Okay. Excellent. No further questions on that? Okay. All right. Moving to item 4, our consent agenda. As mentioned previously at the regular board meeting, we will no longer read out the title of each consent agenda item. The agenda notice and packet are posted well in advance of the board meeting, allowing community members and board trustees ample time to review these items. This change should allow our meetings to be more efficient and allow the board to reach the discussion items more quickly so we can better focus on those items directly related to student success. With that, does any trustee have an item they wish to pull from the consent agenda? Yes, Mr. Grabowski.
I'd like to pull for Charlie.
All right, 4C. All right. Any others? Okay. Mr. Silva, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. President. I move to approve consent agenda items 4A through 4C, exclusive of pulled item 4C.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All right. 7 in favor. Pulled items, returning to any pulled items, our first pulled item was item 4C. Do I have a motion
Yes, Mr. President. I move to approve the identified deductive change order to release the remaining funds back into the project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, Mr. Grabowski.
Mr. Beatty, that's a pretty large deductive change order, and so everybody knows you and I spoke about this already. Can you explain what happens with $500,000 when it gets thrown back into the school district?
Sure. So,
Please.
as far as this one goes, we had a deductive change order for Summerwood Elementary, the over $500,000. What we normally look at where to best appropriate those dollars, because we have a large bond program going on, and in face of 28% increases on a lot of these projects, we are looking to, there's ebbs and flows to budget over the life of 7-year bond program. In this specific situation, we are recommending in the item above this, we're moving that within Summerwood over to Humble High School, but we're keeping that within the Proposition A program. So a couple of things, the reason why we're doing that, and I don't mean to get super in the weeds here, but Proposition A, those are our major construction projects, and we sell bonds with maturities that match the useful life of those major infrastructure projects. So for example, the average maturity for the bonds associated with this may be 10 or 15 years. So we want to keep that within infrastructure projects itself. Sometimes, something that has been brought up lately is technology. You wouldn't want to move that into a technology because Prop B is the bonds that we sell with the 5 years or less maturity, so that we're not paying for things after they're no longer good. So that's kind of like where the overall, like how we look at this. We're looking at making sure all of the bond program projects are funded. And as we see some decreases in some, we move those to others that would need that funding to make everything work in the long game.
Yeah, and on the topic of technology, and we're talking about Chromebooks, and we were having a discussion where there's so much talk about the one-to-one, and then we started talking about some students have freshman year UIL PE, theater, other areas where Chromebooks aren't necessary. So to get the district truly to a one-to-one, did you?
That's a good point. So even another layer of that, when we're evaluating where those dollars are best placed, Chromebooks were one of the major things that we've been looking at this year, especially this semester. So we had good discussions about our needs in technology committee. Just recently alone, we have, I think by the end of this month, our expectation was to be at a 75% ratio of Chromebooks to students. And after some further discussions, we decided to allocate another $1 million of that Prop B money over to purchase Chromebooks, which we expect to put us at an 85% ratio. At the end of the day, that would cover 6 of 7 classes. So that's how we're looking at everything when we're evaluating these. And I'll tell you also that recently we have invested $2 million into CTE devices to where we're going to purchase and replace a lot of the older CTE devices to get them up to speed. So I think we have put a significant investment, about $3 million recently, to Chromebooks and technology devices, and then we can see where that puts us after let a little bit of dust settle. I also remind you all that if our enrollment continues declining, if we were to buy a device right now for every student, we may have over purchase as well. So it's kind of a very strategic and thoughtful approach to making sure we're addressing technology needs.
That's that's still to come, right? The 85% will be at the end of November, right? Or
Yeah, we
yeah.
expect October and November, yeah, that we'll have that
Yeah,
85%
it's not here
ratio
today,
done.
just to
Yeah.
kind of clarify.
But 75, we expect.
Mr. President, are we gone a little far afield from this
Yeah,
agenda
from-
item?
Well,
Talking
the
Yeah.
issue
about
was,
Wanna
people
definitely-
wanted to know why the 500 million, what couldn't we buy Chromebooks with it?
the 550,000.
Oh, 500,000, yeah, the little over, why can't we
Yeah.
buy Chromebooks with that money? And so that's why it blended into the Chromebooks.
Understand. Because there was questions in the community around why we couldn't use that money for Chromebooks, but thanks for the clarity. Mr. Scarfa, did you have a question? I see your light on. You good?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right. 7 in favor. Motion passes. All right, moving on to item 5A, board committee meetings. Mr. Silva, do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. President. I move to approve posting notice of all technology and curriculum committee meetings, in addition to those committees previously approved, making them open to the public.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, did you? I didn't see. Yes, Mr. Silva.
Yeah, credit where credit's due. Mr. Scarfo has been fighting for that for years, since way before I was on the board. I'm definitely in agreement with making those public. I think it's worth noting this, we had our finance committee meetings, which are already open to the public, that there are some things that we can't discuss publicly. In fact, in the finance committee meeting, I made a mistake and started trying to start a conversation about something that should have been enclosed. And the same thing will happen like in technology. Like our next meeting is almost exclusively about a topic that we can't discuss in public because it involves security and safety. But overall, I love the idea of transparency in this space.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think this builds credibility, and we've been talking about this for a while, so thank you for championing that and getting us going on it. So,
Yeah, 100%. And I think, and I don't think she'd mind, Ms. Perry, thank you for calling us out on a couple of missed items. I appreciate that. Again, all about transparency. And again, I can be the third one to say I remember when I first got on the board, Mr. Scarfo was trying to bring light to that. So I'm glad we are finally at that point. And again, it's just all about transparency. So very, very happy with it. All right. So any more discussion? We're good? All right. All those in favor? All right. Motion passes 7-0. A closed session of the board will now be held on the matters contained in the notice for this meeting. Should the board determine that any final action, final decision, or final vote be required with regard to any matter considered in such closed session, then such final action, final decision, or final vote will be made upon reconvening of this public meeting in open session. The time is 6:08 p.m. 8:26 p.m. We will now reconvene into open session. Moving on to item 7A, recommendations regarding door locks and other safety mechanisms. Mr. Silva, do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. President. I move that the board direct the superintendent to require all internal classroom doors be locked during the school day.
No. Uh-oh. That's weird. There we go.
Okay, there we go.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right.
Mr. Hall?
Yes, Mr.
I just
Scarpa.
want to say that, just to reiterate, this was really something brought forward by the board, not the administration. Because I'm sure, as we all know, there may be some pushback, and so I just say this to be recorded, that it was something we chose to do. And we'll take the heat for it.
Thank you, Mr. Scarfo. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor? Motion passes 7-0. All right. The time now is 8:28. This meeting is adjourned.